Here we go. It's getting close to Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers, Week 8. It's Eric Crocker's Super Bowl. It's a lot of fans' Super Bowls, and it is a huge step for the San Francisco 49ers to get to the real Super Bowl to beat these Dallas Cowboys and get back to 500 before their bye week. Keys to victory, how the 49ers get this done, coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We love our everydayers, and we appreciate all the new listeners every day here, hanging out with us daily at Locked On 49ers. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you listen to this podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5. All right, Croc. Yesterday spoke with Marcus Mosher, the host of Locked On Cowboys, and we started to get into the injury report a little bit and how many injuries both of these teams are dealing with. And clearly the Cowboys haven't played up to par. I think like the 49ers have. The 49ers have been a little bit more sporadic. I think the Cowboys have been mostly bad this year, even though their record is slightly better than actually the San Francisco 49ers coming into this one. They have one less loss because they played one less week. But tons of injuries. And the looking at the FanDuel lines, it's the Niners were favored by a touchdown last week. And then after all the injuries, now the 49ers, it's gotten closer to 4.5, 4 points. Is the 49ers still the favorites, but clearly the injuries are affecting the betting lines, and the injuries are affecting how confident I am for the 49ers to come in and win this matchup. We're going to talk about some of the key matchups here, but what's your confidence level? What do you think about the San Francisco 49ers right now? After a big loss for the Chiefs, I think the fan base has had a chance to calm down a little bit. Kyle Shanahan doesn't really want to let on too much about what is fixable, what is good, what is bad. I got a Shanahan quote I want to talk about in a little while, but overall vibes are a little weird coming into this week, and injuries are up. So I don't really know what to expect Sunday.
My confidence level, I'm not going to lie, it's not as high as I would like it to be heading into the Dallas Cowboys week. You know, this San Francisco 49ers team, I just don't know exactly how this team is going to show up. You have a team that's really banged up in a lot of key pivotal areas, whether it's at the running back position, whether it's at receiver position. You have some offensive linemen that aren't playing as well. On the defensive side of the ball, there are some guys stepping up, and we'll talk about one of them a little bit later. But it's hard to have a ton of confidence when you haven't seen the 49ers put together complete games, especially like a back-to-back complete game. So as it stands right now, heading into this Cowboys week, I don't know exactly who this 49er team is. I know they're injured. I know that. How will it affect the team from week to week? I keep thinking they're going to snap out of it, and all of a sudden everybody's just going to be playing excellent. But it's hard to have the confidence that they'll do that.
Might be a good time just to get right into the injury report here before we get into some key matchups for this one. And participation, some players came back that did not participate earlier on in the week for the 49ers. Deebo Samuel back on a limited basis. He didn't practice Wednesday, limited Thursday. Same for George Kittle with the foot injury. George Odom was limited. Nick Bosa limited with his elbow, which is to be expected. I don't think there's any worry that Nick Bosa won't play. Chris Connolly had an ankle injury, and he did not participate Wednesday, did in a limited fashion on Thursday, and then they're being cautious with Jordan Mason and his AC joint in the shoulder as well. So he's kind of, getting a little bit more work as the week goes on, but he probably won't, take a big load or take any hits or anything like that. Jordan Mason getting ready for this game, but I think, guys like Bosa and Mason will play. Deebo, it's a good sign that he got a limited practice in, but man, pneumonia takes more than a week to get better, Croc. So I can't imagine playing an NFL game with pneumonia. That's a multi-week thing that knocks you out. So that's an interesting one. We'll see if Deebo Samuel's able to play this week. And then, Juwan Jennings was not at practice again with the hip injury. Kevin Givens has a groin. He was not at practice. And Jake Moody still out with his ankle injury. So that is the Thursday participation report from 49ers practice.
One thing about the 49ers, last season, they were relatively healthy. Obviously, you had a stretch where you missed Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams. But for the most part, your guys were out there. And this year, it seems like nobody is out there at any position. And not even knowing if Deebo Samuel is going to play, not knowing 100%, if Juwan Jennings is going to play, obviously knowing Ayuk isn't going to be out there, not knowing are the rookies truly up to speed where they need to be to where the quarterback is going to trust where they're supposed to be. I mean, this is tough. And this team is taking a beating with these injuries, and it's impacting the team in various ways.
In the chat, Alfonso wants to know about Micah Parsons on the other side. And yeah, there's a ton of injuries for the Dallas Cowboys as well. And it's looking like Micah Parsons is still not going to play even after a bye week for the Cowboys. His ankle injury is pretty bad. So not participating yet in practice so far this week. And so not looking like Micah Parsons is going to be out there. A lot of defensive line injuries for the Dallas Cowboys. And so when you look at this Dallas Cowboys team, and I think the number one, and by the way, did you see we talked about this on the podcast yesterday. Did you see the jury duty for Brandon Aubrey, Cowboys kicker?
I saw that.
It's unbelievable.
Speaking of jury duty, I think I need to call him back. I missed my jury duty date. So.
No. Croc, you might get on one of those murder trials like Brandon Aubrey. So this is
that what he's on?
Yeah, apparently it's like a murder trial, and the judge is going to work with him, but he's like going to be on the jury, and he's going to be able to get out Friday to be able to go fly to the game and still play. But then he's going to have jury duty during the week. So yeah, I don't know how long this trial is going to go on. Is it like some crazy trial that we're going to hear about on a Dateline someday or what? But
that's pretty intense.
Yeah, I've never heard of an NFL player, really a professional athlete in any sport, having jury duty. I guess you have to. You're a citizen, right? But they get that worked out. Brandon Aubrey needs to talk to his agent or something. I don't know.
I've watched like every season and episode of Suits. I'm watching Lincoln Lawyer right now. I'm on season 3. It just dropped. So I feel like I know everything about the court system, the courtrooms, and being on jury duty. Yeah, he might be in for a long kind of road here.
But it's not going to affect his availability for the game, though. And by the way, we got to the bottom of the punter thing. Remember the 49ers worked out a punter this week, and we're like, man,
yeah,
hot seat for Mitch Wishnowsky. The Cowboys have a left-footed punter, so they probably brought in a left-footed punter to give the return men a different look in practice, which makes a lot of sense. We should have figured that out right away. But so Mitch Wishnowsky, his job is safe, at least for now, unless that lefty punter was drilling him. All right, keys to victory here. I think you have to start with where the injuries are, right? And so if the Dallas Cowboys are a team that doesn't have their top 3 or 4 defensive ends and is not going to be able to bring much of a pass rush against the 49ers, and they already were a very bad team against the run. I mean, this is a get-right game for the 49ers offense, right, Croc? Like, they better go out there and score a bunch.
I think you would feel that way if you had all your guys out there, right? And you just had a bad week or two, and it's like, all right, need to get back on track. 49ers went through that earlier, and you saw the New England Patriots on the schedule, and it's like, oh, this is the get back on track game. The offense is going to do well. And they did. That was probably the best version of the offense that we've seen. But when several of those guys that helped you get back on track a few weeks ago aren't out there, and potentially a few others not playing as well, I don't know if this is a get back on track game or just a figure it out game. At this point where the 49ers are with these injuries, you just have to figure out a way to get by. So I think for Kyle Shanahan, how are you able to scheme around a lot of the deficiencies that you have on the offensive side of the ball? And I don't even think it's about the offense clicking. It's just about who's going to make the plays so that you can squeak out a win. Is it going to be, I see somebody mentioned the run game. 49ers need a big run game this week from Ian Sharp in the chat. I mean, heavy dose of Jordan Mason.
I mean, it's got to be. This is a team that can't stop the run. The 49ers, this is going to be one of those vintage Kyle games, I think, where the 49ers run the ball 40 times and they run the Cowboys off the field. I think that is the plan for Kyle Shanahan. It has to be. He doesn't want to lean on the passing game and lean on potentially rookie wide receivers. Deebo Samuel's not going to be 100% with dealing with pneumonia, even if he's able to play. And it even seems unlikely that he should be able to be out there and playing with this sort of an illness. So if they can't stop the run, and the Cowboys have been one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, that's game over right there. And Kyle's gonna be like, okay, cool. We're gonna bring it and maybe throw in some Garendo and maybe some Patrick Taylor will see the field. And we're gonna keep running it until you prove you can stop it. I think that's the easiest key to victory right now for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
More keys to victory. Some individual matchups I think are really interesting in this game. And Robert Salah hanging out with the Packers now? Did he do Kyle dirty? All that and more coming up on this edition of Locked On 49ers. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers sponsored by Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. How easy does Prize Picks make daily fantasy? Well, it's this easy. You pick 2 or more players, you pick more or less than on the Prize Picks stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. For example, Justin Jefferson, more or less than 83.5 receiving yards. I think I'm going to go more than on the Thursday nighter that's about to happen for you. We're going to try to get out of here so you can catch kickoff of that one. Saquon Barkley, more than 67.5 rush yards. What about Patrick Mahomes? What about Brock? What about Jordan Mason? I think a more than in this one for the San Francisco 49ers. We just laid out that run game. All you got to do is download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. Again, download the app, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. Run your game. I want to talk to you guys about Zbiotics and the pre-alcohol by Zbiotics. And man, this stuff works. Every time I've used pre-alcohol before having some drinks, I notice a huge difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on all the podcasts or whatever I have to do the next day and without worry. It's not even an issue. And this is what pre-alcohol probiotic drink by Zbiotics is. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. You just drink the pre-alcohol for best results. Make the pre-alcohol. It's a little tiny vial of liquid, and you drink it before your first drink of the night. Then drink responsibly, and then enjoy the next day. Wake up feeling refreshed. And a special offer for our listeners: go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. Zbiotics is backed by 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll return your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. Robert Salah on the sideline with the Green Bay Packers now. And look, I guess Robert Salah, this is this way of telling Kyle Shanahan that he likes Matt LaFleur better. And here's what's interesting. Matt LaFleur said that Salah is actually going to contribute on the offensive side of the ball by using his strong defensive knowledge. Matt LaFleur said he told Salah to take a break and go to the beach or something, but apparently Robert Salah is the football guy. And I talked about this. Remember, it's like, okay, go take a quick vacation. These football guys aren't going to be able to sit there and just vacation all year long. But Kyle may be a little slow to the phone, a little slow to the trigger, or maybe just likes Matt LaFleur better. I think they were like best man at each other's wedding, right? LaFleur and Salah at each other's, or one was at the other's wedding as the best man. I can't remember which way it went, but yeah, no Niners consultant with Robert Salah there.
I'll tell you what happened, because he was supposed to go on vacation, enjoy his time off. You know, he's getting paid handsomely from the New York Jets. Like, just go chill with the family. And he got around those 8 kids for a couple weeks.
8 kids.
And he said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know what, babe? My phone just rang. Oh, man, it's Salah. It's LaFleur. What does LaFleur want? Oh, gosh, they need me out there? Babe, I gotta go. LaFleur called me. He needs my help. And I'm assuming something like that happened, because there's no way. Just imagine if Locked On today was like, all right, Peacock, you know, we're going to pay you to stay home and pay you millions of dollars. You'll be like, cool, okay, I'm going to go chill. You're not going to say, you know what, let me go to talk with Matt Barrows every day. Like, nah, man, I need to relax and chill with little Leo for a little bit.
Well, it depends. If they said, hey, we're going to give you millions of dollars to stay home, but you got to take 7 more kids along with your own kid with you. I'd say, no, I'm good. No thanks. 8 kids, dude. And he's like, not only that, it's like, okay, you guys, no need to come with me to Wisconsin. I'm going to go all the way to Wisconsin. You guys stay here in New York. And
it's cold out there. You don't want to go out there anyways. Like it's not cold in New York.
Salah. Yeah. So anyway, Bob Salah ain't coming to help the 49ers defense. And so it's up to Nick Sorensen to get this thing figured out. And man, this 49ers defense should eat, I think, against the Dallas Cowboys front. Now, Dak Prescott is obviously a dude, and CeeDee Lamb is a dude. They got no more dudes, Croc. They got 2 dudes, and that is it. Can you scheme a way up on defense to slow down, make things very difficult for CeeDee Lamb, and make Jalen Tolbert beat you? Make fat Zeke Elliott beat you, right? Apologies, Zeke Elliott. I don't know if he's fat, but he's not the dude he used to be. Their offensive line is banged up. There's a lot of young players that are either bad or banged up on that offensive line. So Bosa should eat. The 49ers front should win that battle, and the 49ers front on offense should win the battle against the front on the Cowboys defense, which tells me this is a big 49ers victory.
I watched a lot Brian Burns go up against Tyler Guyton, young tackle for the Dallas Cowboys out of Oklahoma, I believe. Guyton
Where a lot of people wanted the Niners to draft late in the first round. He went just ahead of the Niners to the Cowboys.
Right. Right now, I'm glad that he's on the other team because Brian Burns was beating him like a drum. So if you're Nick Bosa has the freedom to line up wherever he wants on, across the opposing offensive line. Like, who does he want to go after on this play? I'm going after Tyler Guyton all game long. Yeah. And if anybody's looking for another breakout game, I guess you can't call it a breakout game. Nick Bosa had multiple sacks against the Minnesota Vikings. There was another game a couple weeks ago where he had like 14 pressures. So Nick Bosa has had some big games. Can he have like an Aldon Smith versus Chicago and Colin Kaepernick's first start type big game where he gets 5 sacks in the game like that? I'm waiting for that big game from Nick Bosa. And if there's any time, it's Guyton, because Guyton, on top of getting beat consistently by Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns for the New York Giants, he got repeatedly called for penalties. Like, he just had his hands full. I think Nick Bosa is a handful as well. So I'm excited to see that matchup. And if there's anything that can kind of change the way this game plays out, I think it's how is that young left tackle going to hold up against 49ers elite pass rusher?
It's a big one, and the Niners have to win those battles. Gerardo has a question here that's interesting, and I want to talk about the rookie wide receivers. And the way I was going to frame it to you, Croc, is which wide receiver do you think gets the most catches in this game if Juwan Jennings doesn't play and Deebo Samuel is sort of, not full strength? Gerardo says, keys to victory, Shanahan needs to trust his rookie wide receivers. Who leads the 49ers wide receivers? So George Kittle doesn't count. Who has the most receiving production for the 49ers at wide receiver in this game?
It's probably Pearsall. I mean, and that's a guy, again, Kyle Shanahan felt strongly about, the matureness and the professionalism of Ricky Pearsall when he just never touched the field. And now that he's gotten out there, gotten his feet wet, understands the speed of the game, I'm assuming that he's going to be a big part of this offense. Like, if he wasn't going to be last week with Deebo and Ayuk out there, now that Ayuk's not playing, and we'll see what happens with Deebo, I'm assuming that he's going to be out there for a ton of snaps. And you have no option at this point but to make sure that you figure out different ways and creative ways to get the ball in Ricky Pearsall's hands. So I'm going to go with Pearsall. And I like Cowing. If somebody said Cowing, I could see that happening as well. But I like Pearsall. My money's on Pearsall. I'm actually going to pick him up in fantasy. I was actually just looking that up just now.
PPR leagues, I like that play. I'm going to say Pearsall leads the 49ers in receptions. Cowing leads in yards.
I like it.
That's my way of being on the fence about it. There's an opportunity for a big play or two, but I think they're going to pound the rock. It is not going to be a passing heavy game plan. And it's going to be up to the Cowboys to make the 49ers throw the ball, I think, in this game. Execution. I love this one. Shout out to Mike in the UK. He says, hey, P. Croc, approaching 1 a.m. here in the UK every day, but rarely catch the show live. Word of the week, execution. I love it, Mike. Execute. There's way too much stuff the 49ers left on the bone You can point to Kyle Shanahan. You can point to Brock Purdy. You can point to anybody. You can point to scheme. You can point to special teams. The 49ers had opportunities in multiple losses this year that they didn't capitalize on. And it goes, you say it every week, right? You can talk about turnovers. You can talk about penalties, but just the execution, the 49ers have felt off this year. It's been a little strange. Execute, guys.
The execution hasn't been great, and I'm pretty sure that's something that Kyle Shanahan has been trying to dial in on, all week long. If there's one thing that can derail this whole thing, it is the execution part of it. Whether it's guys running a route at a certain depth, and your quarterback making sure that that's where he's at, understanding this guy is going to be where he is supposed to be at. The scheme is really good, and I think to a certain extent it is plug and play because a lot of it is predicated on timing, rhythm. But guys have to be where they're supposed to be, and a big part of that is execution.
All right, next, more keys to victory for the San Francisco 49ers and maybe some predictions as well for Week 8. Get right game. Nearly a must win. The 49ers really need this one against the Dallas Cowboys. We'll finish it up next. The final segment of this episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Niners favored by 4. That line is changing, and it's getting smaller with all the injuries on the San Francisco 49ers side. Still favored. You can get on that action and much more at FanDuel. Tons of props, weekly quarterback props, wide receiver props, offensive, defensive player of the year, coach of the year, year long. Bet on those Niners to win the Super Bowl. And NFL fans can start with a big return right now on FanDuel with $200. So get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com. And when you get a hunch in the middle of the game Sunday and you want to check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, you can find it all on the very same page where you place your bets and maybe get informed on some new bets to place at FanDuel.com. So go to FanDuel, download the app, or go to FanDuel.com and get America's #1 sportsbook. Croc, are we going with demon mode? Hugo says demon mode for 150 yards.
Who is going demon mode?
It's Jordan Mason. Demon mode is kind of like the beast mode thing. See, where's number 24? Everyone compares him to beast mode. And demon mode, that's not a bad nickname. I don't like kind of like stealing other people's nicknames, but it kind of fits for Jordan Mason. Demon mode. I don't mind it. 200 yards on the ground, 150 for demon mode, Hugo says, and 50 more for Isaac Garenda.
Yeah, Jordan Mason definitely runs like a man possessed, like a man that's a demon. He runs hard. And, I think for the 49ers, early and often in this game, I think it's just sticking with the run. I think there's times where the 49ers come out and want to throw the ball a little bit, and I am not at all opposed to coming out, throwing the rock, doing something, opposite of whatever the Cowboys have game plan for. But turning around, handing the ball off Jordan Mason, I'm not at all opposed to that. And one thing I would like to see, and I'm not sure we've seen it at all with Jordan Mason, can the 49ers maybe throw a screen to Jordan Mason? I know he's not Christian McCaffrey, but can we get him the ball in space and get him going downhill? I think he's very swift in space, making guys miss. I think he, just the reckless abandonment that he runs with, guys don't really want to tackle him like that. Let's get the ball in some space for him and get him going downhill right now.
Isaac Garenda, too. Utilize his ability as a former wide receiver. Find ways to allow the rookie to contribute in the passing game. So I want to go to our friend Brad Graham. Shout out Brad Graham, friend of the podcast. And he highlighted an answer that Kyle had at a press conference this week. And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, the way Kyle answered it, because it's the second time this season that Kyle has done this. And there was a game a few weeks ago, and I think it was the Cardinals game, and the 49ers missed some protections. And Kyle had the very same short answer. And this week it was, quote, when people blitz more than you have, you've got to throw hot. And so he's kind of like, pointing the finger at Brock Purdy, got to throw hot when people bring more than you blitz. But there's multiple times when the 49ers have had 5 blockers and there's 5 rushers and there's still guys running free. So one of the keys to victory for me is that pass protection. And whether you go back to last week against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl in February against the Kansas City Chiefs, whether you go to the Vikings game, the Cardinals game, like there's times where there's too many free rushers in Brock Purdy's face and they've got enough guys to block him. So it does seem like teams are using the 49ers calls against them. Like they know what the Niners are doing. And Kyle Shanahan is so good at using defense's rules against them. I think really good defensive coordinators are doing the same thing to Kyle Shanahan. And Brad was at an event this week and asked Alex Smith about this. And Alex Smith's answer was interesting. He said the defense is keying on how the center identifies the mic and they counter rush against the slide of the protection. And he asked if Brock can check the protection. And Kyle said he doesn't want his QBs doing anything at the line of scrimmage so they can play faster. I wonder if that's something that you might have to change, especially if you're going to have a $50+ million quarterback. And maybe that's not something you change this week, but and Tom Brady talks about it all the time. He wanted to be in full. If Tom Brady came to the 49ers, he would have been making protection calls, period. And so I wonder if that's something that they can change to, because I know there's so much motion and Kyle wants to be in Brock's ear like for the full 15 seconds until the mic cuts off. And there's a lot going on. I think that's a lot of the reason why Kyle wants the offensive lineman to call the protections. But clearly this has happened too many times in too many different games. Something has to change there to me.
A couple of things in the chat right now. Hugo De Jesus says, why doesn't Kyle let Brock call audibles? And Leo had a response. He says, quote from Kyle, I'm like, go ahead. If you see it, change it. Pick it up. I'd rather much have you throw deeper. But essentially what he's saying is Kyle Shanahan, and we've heard Kyle specifically say this. I want to say it was on the Kawakami podcast. The quarterbacks do have the option to change it. But he tries to call plays in a way to where you don't have to do it. And he does want guys playing fast. So I think it was Kirk Cousins who he kind of gave that leeway to. Like Kirk was like, hey, can I change the play? Can I get us in something different? Kyle was like, sure, go ahead. Kirk Cousins did it for a game. I was like, you know what? That was very, very difficult. Not sure I want to do that again. So Kyle tries to have all the answers to whatever look the defense is giving them. But I think there are times where maybe the quarterback can help himself by changing something a little bit here and there.
One of my fun matchups in this one to watch is Deommodore Lenoir, the hyena. And he has been so good for the 49ers this year, and he's making himself a lot of money. And we know that the Dallas Cowboys feature their number one wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. They move him around. He plays in the slot a lot. I've seen key matchup Lamb versus Ward. I think it's going to be more hyena because I think we're going to see CeeDee Lamb moving around and in the slot a lot. And that's a Deommodore Lenoir versus CeeDee Lamb matchup, I think, more than a Charvarius Ward versus CeeDee Lamb matchup, although Lamb's going to line up in a lot of places. And I don't think the 49ers are necessarily going to travel with him. So what do you see in CeeDee Lamb and how do you think the 49ers should combat this? And do you think the 49ers should just like straight up bracket him and say, go ahead, Jalen Tolbert, beat us?
Well, Troy Aikman doesn't think the Cowboys receivers, including CeeDee Lamb, they're just not running great routes. They're not doing things to help get open. And if that's something that's going to continue to be consistent and we're going to see that in this game, I'm not sure it matters who you put on them. There has been a disconnect from what we've seen in previous years from CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, just kind of their connection, that groove that they get in. And this year has been very up and down. And even in the one big game that CeeDee Lamb had, he had a big game against the New York Giants, had like 90 yards at halftime. I don't think he had a catch for the entire second half. So there's something going on there where they're not quite on the same page. And CeeDee Lamb isn't happy about it. I think he's voiced his frustrations in a certain way through the media, saying, hey, this is what happens when you get me the ball, I ball, just that, like there's something going on there. So, it doesn't matter who guards him. Obviously, he's a terrific receiver. He's the guy that, if I had to guess, the Cowboys want to get going early in this game. But I'm not opposed to whether it's Deommodore Lenoir because he's lined up in the slot, or if it's Charvarius Ward because we see CeeDee Lamb on the outside.
Watch out for some wide back usage as well. They put CeeDee Lamb in the backfield and hand him the ball occasionally.
Yeah, they've been trying to do some Deebo Samuel type stuff. I don't think he's the, just I formation. And that's what, it's been a straight I formation. We're going to turn around and give him a toss or give him a handoff. And again, I think that's different ways of just, hey, let's get our main guy involved in this game plan. But I'm not sure that's the best way to get CeeDee Lamb involved.
Lamb's okay after the catch. He's no Deebo Samuel, and he's about half as wide as Deebo Samuel, too. He's pretty narrow, dude. Croc, you got any more keys to victory before we get going here?
Man, I think for the 49ers, it's take care of the ball. I mean, obviously, this goes without being said. You want to win the turnover battle, but the 49ers 3 times in plus territory against Kansas City Chiefs turn the ball over. You can't do that and expect to be able to win games. Now, I hurt the 49ers last week. So, just take care of the ball. Obviously, that's a goal every game you go into. But in a game where you're going against the Cowboys who, they're not clicking on all cylinders, right, or firing on all cylinders. It's not like they're playing extraordinary football. You can't do things that allow them to gain more courage, gain more confidence. And if you do that and you start giving Dak Prescott confidence, that dude will heat up. He'll start throwing the ball all around, and he's going to hit guys like CeeDee Lamb. But the version of Dak Prescott that we've seen on a consistent basis against the 49ers is not a good version of Dak Prescott. So can you capitalize on their mistakes like we saw the 49ers not do against Kansas City Chiefs? Can you get them out of rhythm early? Can you stop the run game with Dowdle and Fat Zeke, as you said earlier? Bottle those guys up, put the game on Dak's shoulders, and I think if you can fluster him a little bit, that's where the 49ers are going to have their best opportunity to win this game. So, and I don't think if you're the 49ers, you want to get in a situation where you feel a little backed up into a corner, not with these young guys playing receiver that you have to have out there right now, and not with the way that Brock Purdy has played at different points this season. So hey, let's play from ahead, run the ball well, and take care of the ball when you're in plus territory.
I think there's going to be a lot more like the Seattle Seahawks game. All the injuries up front. I think the 49ers are going to dominate up front, offensive and defensively, and that's going to lead to a big win, multi-touchdown win, 14-point win for the San Francisco 49ers, 27-13, and the vibes will be much better heading into a bye week. 4-4. We'll be talking about trade deadline. We'll be talking about a big win for the 49ers. The fans are going to love beating the Cowboys, and you'll be looking at the Seahawks within a game and potentially even tied with the Seahawks going into the bye week and licking your wounds and getting healthier before week 10 of the season. That's my prediction. 2-touchdown win for the San Francisco 49ers. You got a prediction for us, Croc?
I just hope the 49ers win my Super Bowl. That's it.
Pain. Big win for the 49ers. Thanks, everybody, for jumping in with us in the live.
Real quick. You know what they need to do for like this game? You know how in college, when there's like this rivalry game, there's this trophy that gets passed between each team? 49ers and Cowboys need a trophy. I mean, essentially a 49er, isn't that like a gold miner? They were kind of like Cowboys a little bit. Some kind of Cowboy-themed trophy. And whoever wins, they get the trophy at their stadium. I know that's a little college and maybe high school does that, but I think that would be something kind of fun, a little rivalry between the two teams.
Like a brick of gold, like a brick of half gold, half silver. Like,
so I would take that.
Yeah,
I would take that.
I like that too. I think it's just bragging rights, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of people with a lot of I mean, I don't know how many brothers that one's a 49ers fan, one's a Cowboys fan. I still don't know how that happened in the Crocker households. But yeah, it's a lot of people's Super Bowl. So this big one for the 49ers. It's nearly a must win. The Niners need this football game for the fans, for the team, for the standings, for the tiebreakers in the NFC, for all of it. Big week here. And I think they are going to take down the Dallas Cowboys. All right. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Croc and I back post-game right here. Locked on 49ers.